Namaste everyone. Miss Anushri Tendolkar is an architect by profession, practicing natural and ecologically sensitive construction. She graduated from Academy of Architecture Mumbai in 2014. During college, she was fortunate enough to have a teacher, architect Malik Singh Gill, who inspired her to tread the path of ecological architecture. She then later worked with Thanal, where she learned about the on-ground practice of natural construction with values with architecture Biju Bhaskar. She has been practicing with natural methods of construction using mud, lime, bamboo, and more after her training with traditional masons and masters. She then founded Dharti Hands in her hometown, Thane, which is in construction, research, and documentation of traditional buildings towards spreading awareness about the same through teaching and co-learning through hands-on workshops. She is also a visiting faculty at IESCOA Bandra.
Thank you, Lakshay. Thank you for that introduction. Anushri, over to you. We are all ears listening.
Everyone. I'm Anushri, architect Anushri Tandolkar, and today I'm going to be speaking about my journey in architecture. How I got into what I am doing right now, which is very much relevant to the world as we see currently. So I'll take you through my journey. It's quite interesting, some fun for you guys to perhaps guide you to through your own journeys, individual journeys, even if it's not in architecture, but some way we'll connect through my journey. Okay. So so before we go ahead, I wanted to tell you what my life's goal is. So this is something that I came up with very recently, and I've made it a point that I write it down. So my goal is that I believe I am capable of making a real change in the society by setting an example through my practice, my teaching, by uplifting others, and through this saving Earth from where we are headed. So this is where I begin this with. But we will go before we really get into the goal. We'll how I came up with this, how I came to this. So during my school time, I was studying in Thane itself. My school, I belong to. I studied at Srimati Sulochana Devi Singhania School, which is a very it's a wonderful school, and it gave me so many opportunities to learn and engage with many ideas. So even in school, so basically I was not such a bright kid or anything. I was an above average kid. I knew what I was doing. I really loved reading, but most of all, I was a wallflower. I was not like in a limelight. I was not um the the topper student or anything, but I knew that I was different in some way. I was absolutely interested in whatever was being taught in school, maybe chemistry, physics, or biology. So there was no certain subject which stood out to me. But I was constantly very intrigued and curious about what was going on. So it was very difficult for me to understand what I wanted to do with my life, because that's a big question that we come at a cusp and we don't know where to go, where we are headed. So it was simple to me because in a way, because drawing spoke to me. I good at drawing, and I had this connection with it, and thus somehow I thought that architecture is perhaps the field for me, because there is design, there is a lot of engaging with these crazy ideas that actually come to life when you're constructing something. So that's it, exactly why I do architecture. And I had a whole lot of different ideas in to get about architecture. So basically, right now you also guys will be at a cusp where like you will have so many subjects that you're studying, and you don't know really where you'll be headed. So this is kind of a thing that I had on the platter. Like, there is biology, physics, history, economics, drawing, and mathematics, psychology. And as you see my journey later on, you'll realize how there's an amalgamation of all of these things when I decided to become an architect, I was actually saying yes to all of these things. So a lot of people ask, ki, is it relevant what you study in school? You're not going to use it later on. You're not going to use physics or this or that. But yes, that was a yes for me. I am using it in whatever way it is, and amazing. It's very intriguing right now, and that's what I'll show you today. So these were the subjects, but there were a lot of core values that I took from my school itself. The feeling of compassion, equity, humility towards whatever work I'm doing, empathy towards other people, and the sense of there always is a competition, but the competition should not be each other, but through ourselves. Better in so, so all my school, and then I entered into architecture. So architecture, I thought architecture is actually very different, right? It was I was very terrified, and I thought I'll be building skyscrapers and a lot of glass buildings, and in Mumbai I'll be like the most sought after architect, and also I had a very good score in my entrance exam, and that sort of made me feel like I'm on top of the world. But there was a lot of humbleness waiting for me. So 5 years, so architecture is a 5 year course, and it is a lot of designing, model work, drafting, and drawings, and a lot of efforts, a lot of hard work in there. But also it sensitizes you towards so many things. So actually, it was very and as these years, I was very fortunate enough to have a who changed my opinion about this grandeur of architecture to a very humble and simple, yet the right. So I show you it's an interesting story. Throughout my architectural life, I came across so my professor, architect Malak Singh Gill, and there was this one person, Lord Mukherjee, who is a very famous person. He passed away quite some time ago, but he revolutionized the architecture in a very different way, a very local and for local architecture. So the structures that you see in this slide itself, you can actually connect with it in a very different way. They are very humble. Nothing is very standing out, but and the material itself is very local from the land. So these are the values I was imbibed in uh, during my architecture college, and I was very fortunate because uh, you get a lot of your core value resonate with something that's exactly what I am. So then, what exactly is architecture? And when I spoke about this amalgamation of all these physics, chemistry, history, geography, and everything. So basically, architecture is the art and science of designing buildings and other physical structures. In a wider definition, it is actually the design of the total built environment from a macro level to and like an urban planning to understanding landscapes and to a very micro level. So an architect has to be someone who has a study of human living. He doesn't have to necessarily be just a person who draws or can design, but he has to sensitize himself to people who are going to live in that building, right? To every small thing, like where are you going to keep your brush, where are you going to keep your comb. Architect is what architecture is. So that's how deeply connected it is to the macro level. And that's the responsibility of an architect, and it is big. So so uh, what my architecture, what I do, why it is different is uh, the one whom I had spoken about, architect Malak Singh Gill. So he had hosted an ecology and architecture. I had attended an elective during my course called ecology and architecture. So you'll be thinking about why do I have so many food I spread out here this particular slide. But that's what was interesting. So this is the interesting incident that I wanted to share. Is that he gave us an exam. He actually gave us a sort of an assignment to bring food from our local place wherever we belong to. So so since I am from Maharashtra, a lot of people in my class were from Maharashtra, and he asked us to get something very traditional to our region. So I come from Konkan, some comes from Vidarbha. So there are these different regions with different landscapes, and you won't believe that there were around 15 of us, and we all had different food on the table. Not a single food was repeated on the table. So then it was so surprising because uh, we all talk about, we eat the same kind of food, but traditionally we all have a variety, a diversity of so many things. So then he explained to us that if there is so much diversity in our food, then why do we not have why didn't we explore the diversity in our architecture? So if you can see in this slide itself, you will see there are a few images. They all belong to the different regions of our country. Look how beautifully they are responding to their surroundings. But there is one structure here. Uh, it's not very difficult to guess which one it would be, which actually stands out and looks like it doesn't belong there, or looks like uh, it is apart from the landscape. So if you can see this one, so this is actually what we are conventionally we have been constructing in architecture right now. But this gave me a sense, like to delve deeper into questioning कि someone has already designed something for a particular region, and what we are doing is actually not practicing architecture uh, through our understanding of the modern material and all that stuff. So then I started delving deeper into vernacular architecture. So what is vernacular architecture? It's exactly what you saw on the previous slide, where there were houses that belong to different regions. One is from Ladakh, and one is from Ooty, one is from Himachal, one is from Konkan region. So they all have different roofs, different kind of materials involved in the in construction. There is one from Gujarat, which is the Bhunga house, the conical one in the top right. You can left you can see. So these are all one. This is all vernacular architecture, and that's exactly what I wanted to practice. It's so beautiful. It responds to the climate. It responds to the region. The material is local. It belongs to that land, and that's exactly what Malak sir wanted to show us, that the food in that land is eaten for a reason, right? To maintain the temperature, it supports the agriculture of that region. So then that's exactly what a vernacular architecture is doing. It's the language of that land. These architects are somewhere played on by our ego, or are blindsided by our ideas to put this aside and put our projections. But it was time to be humble, to break out from that, and to get into understanding what vernacular architecture is. So it was very interesting and kind of grounding experience, because vernacular architecture means that there is no requirement of an architect. The people, if you have ever visited your old houses or villages, anyone has visited any of your villages, there are old houses which are 200, 300 years old. There are forts, there are temples that are so old, there are mosques that are so old, and they have been built by the people in the region. They were the architects of their own. So it was like a rude shock. Like, was I really needed then in the society? Because I had decided to do sensible architecture, kind of architecture. So what was there did I place myself? Because it was self-building. Self-building was practiced all the time, and people had this very interesting method of helping each other out. So every year, um, all the people in a village would go and construct one person's house. The second year, all of them would go and construct the other person's house. So there was this exchange of energies, this exchange of knowledge, and in that. and that was the beauty of it. And those houses are the ones that have been lasting for so long, like almost 200 years and 300 years, 150 years. And they were all, the material that they used were all natural material and local material. So again, shock after shock, like, so what was my place? So then I started questioning myself and my practice, and for the environment around and the ecology. So to and also the modern methods of construction. For example, if you look at cement, you know that cement is not something that you dig out of earth and it is available to you, right? So the mud, on the other hand, is something that you dig out and it is available to you. You can build with it immediately. But on the other hand, cement or steel, for that example, the conventional practices that we see right now, uh, they they come from a lot of long process, and there is a lot of energy put into it, a lot of fuel put into it, and uh, this is what I was questioning. Uh, that do I want to live in such a place which has so much energy into it? And as an architect, I'm sure a lot of you might choose to do architecture, will come to know that a conventional structure like an RCC structure where cement and steel is used, it has a life of 60 years, which means that after 60 years, either it has to be pulled down or really refurbished and made right again. So then what happens to the debris in such a case? Because that cannot be reused again in our practice. So these were the defects of modern, with against older times where olden times when mud was used. Mud is such a beautiful material that if I construct with it, and say my next generation, like my son or my daughter, they decide that I don't want to live in this exactly same house, they can pull it down and reuse the same material to construct the house in a different manner. Or they can even reuse the mud, put it in their farm fields, and something beautiful will grow in them. So you see, that was the beauty of these materials. I also explored that there is a lot of exploitation in terms of industrial production of these things, like not just human exploitation, but the exploitation of our natural resources. And also these beautiful, amazing, fancy and modern materials, they really serving the common people in the right way? So these were the questions, and the understanding of vernacular practices, and whether what I am contributing to whatever I learned in college, is it going to contribute to the common people? That came into the picture, which is when after college I started exploring and learning, and on my own. So I started my journey in an organization called Thanal, and you'll see some amazing, beautiful work that they are doing. You guys can also check it out later on. Um, so there I explored the real understanding of natural building. So that was the first time I had heard this term, natural building. So what I mean by natural building, you can see the bricks in this space, right? So these bricks are sunburned bricks. It's so easy, right? Just take a pile of mud, make a brick out of it, let the sun do the whole job for you. You don't have to spend a penny on this. Just make those bricks. You don't have to spend fuel on this. You don't have to burn it. You don't have to cut trees to burn it or anything. So this is what I learned in my journey in Thanal, and there I was as a I attended their first workshop, which was a hands-on workshop where you'll see a lot of photos later on, but um, I was actually working with my hand. So that is something that was missing in my and you guys are very fortunate, because now every all the schools and every especially your school and many architecture opening up to hands-on workshops where you actually work with your own hand, lift a brick and make a wall. So this is what I did in college. I did not experience through college, but through my professor. He used to take us to construct his whatever he was constructing, and stones, and also I was fortunate for that, but not a lot of them, lot of us were. And at Thanal, I got to explore that completely in so many different diverse regions. So there was a hands-on interaction with people, with hands-on experience, and I also got to do. You may have seen some illustrations in this PPT before. So that is something that is alive in me forever. It's my other passion that I really love following, and I got to do that also. So that was so beautiful for me. And this is the first. So the first day I joined Tunnel was I had to make. We had me and my colleague had to make this bench. We had to make this bench and sculpt this bench. So it was like directly getting into something, working with your hands, and that was so magical about my journey in Tunnel. So you'll see a lot of images, like these are the some things that we created. So you see how humble this material is. It's completely made with mud. The roof is bamboo. It's woven with a local rope. Coir is used for that, and the twigs you see are also collected locally. They are also bamboos. So the material came from the site. Of course, it had a layer of mud on thatch on top, which is again rice straw and all. But the effects that it created, and it was amazing. So this is one project that I got to work there hands on to understand what happens. So the plaster work, the framing work, and all of these was something that we were doing as architects. As architects, we were doing mason work, which is amazing because it just grounds you, really grounds you, and makes you a better human being. And that's what I learned there. So these are a few things that we constructed there. This is one structure in near Bangalore. If you ever have to get to visit it, I will also share a link to the PDF that a publication or an illustration manual that I got to create with Tunnel. Um, so this is how it. This is exactly this space and how it was finished when it is getting close to finishing. So these are the internal spaces, how they turned up. Some wall art that we created with mud. So this is completely with mud and lime. Lime is tuna. So this was going to be used as a cottage, like for volunteers and for staying. So it had a small pantry and very. It was like a drama of light and shadow and colors within this small structure, and you can. So it was hard to imagine like this. Everything is completely done with natural material. So it was very empowering for me also to to see that yes, it's possible. So this is actually compiled in a building manual which I got to work. So as an architect, not just about building or drawing or and all that, but also documenting and sharing it with people. If you want to construct a house, what are the few things that you need to know? This is something that I learned at Thanalat, sharing, not just keeping it to yourself, because uh, the common knowledge has to be shared, and that's exactly how we'll advance together. We'll move ahead together sustainably. So we documented the whole process and created a manual which is available online to download, and anyone can read and refer and understand how to at least start a basic construction. So this was my experience at that. And this gentleman here, you see, he was a mason in our project, and his name is Chandrana, and I learned a lot from him, uh, because in natural construction it is a lot to do with the science and the chemistry behind the mortars or the plasters or the paints that you prepare. See, those things are coming back. So there are different kinds of plants that we are which have different chemical properties that make it termite resistant, that make it pest resistant, pest repellent, because there are a lot of ants come in. So there are a lot of natural elements to it, and how to prevent them, how to avoid them. So this was all an understanding of the surrounding of the flora fauna, which means again biology came in the picture, of understanding the which material to use. Which means the topography, geography, everything was something to picture, and history of that whole land, that whole region, what construct with and why they construct. Everything is coming together like a jigsaw puzzle, coming and fixing together. And that's exactly what these things uh, are unknowingly practiced by the masons of our country, and they are such amazing people, and they're just looking for people to share their knowledge with, and that's how I learned. I mean, I owe a lot of my practice to these people who are perhaps the people behind the stage. And architects always speak, but this are the people who do the work. So this is how I learned. And one major thing that I learned was about business, because my time at Tunnel was valuable, but now it was time to come back. It was time to come back to my hometown and do something about it. So there were a lot of things. How do I, since I stayed in urban context, what do I do in context, and how do I do it in the rural context? So the region was also completely different. So I had to start with studying my region. There were parents. Parents were a big thing for me, because uh, I am very fortunate to have such amazing parents who really gave me the opportunity to explore everything without any, of course, they were concerned for my safety, but without any questions asked about what I was doing. Initially, they were hesitant, but they are very happy today with what I'm doing. So I'm really grateful to them. So it was a time to study religion, take my parents along with me in this journey of mine. There was a lack of documentation in my whole, like in Thane or in Thane region. So I started with that. And there were a few core values that I wanted to stick to, and those are the principles that we follow at Dirty Hands. There's a value system there. There is no upar niche, like there is no hierarchy. Everyone has something to offer to the plate, and we practice a very ethical practice. Wanted to practice a very ethical practice where I stick to being using natural material. As you can see that the energy and the exploitation involved in the other conventional structure materials is a lot, and we don't see it when we buy a packet of cement, but it means that you are saying yes to a lot of it, lot of energy getting into it. But on the other hand, mud and bamboo and timber, all of these things were simple and they were long lasting and timeless. And this is how I studied. So what basically my work revolves around is on three grounds. It's to do with Swadharma, to Kuladharma, and Yuga Dharma. So these three things mean basically Swadharma is doing something for myself, something that gives me satisfaction, something that sustains me. Kuladharma is something to work for the people who are surrounding you, who are in your close proximity, like your family and your immediate society. And Yuga Dharma, which means that when I do something, I my work, which is for my time, for this time. And today I see that my work is very much falling in line with this, and I'm sure a lot of you will have some overlaps in whatever you choose to do, and a lot of you will have different tangential. I mean, many of you will choose to do architecture, many of you will choose to do so many other beautiful things, and this is what you will be actually working towards. So these are the three questions that I ask myself: what am I doing for myself, for my immediate society, and for the whole of my earth, you can say, whole of the time. So they were overlapping for in my journey for whatever I was doing as an architect. So here comes my journey, where I was actually working on ground as a mason. There was no shame or sharam or anything in doing anything. Just no, you are not a gender on site. You are not a man or a woman. You are a person, an individual learning. So that's how I got into when I was working on site. So these are some few workshops where I was teaching. This was one of the first structures that I had started constructing as a freelancer. So this we had done with volunteers, and this is how my journey began. So it was so amazing for me that I'm doing something on my own. Like I started something, and then came a failure. So yes, failure was very much a part of is very much a part of my journey. But that is the most amazing thing, because the small failures matter a lot. They are the real teachers. They are the ones that really shape your journey, and as long as you learn from it and you deviate and do not repeat it. So there were a lot of failures in terms of whether I, something I did and it didn't work out. Some plasters or some roofing work, it didn't work out, or certain projects that I had to give up because of so many things, so many matters. And sometimes it's not even in our hand, but it made me a better person. It made me more determined to go out there and do it better the next time. There were monetary failures, of course, and a lot of us think that money is such a big thing. Like if you lose money, or if you, then it's a big thing, because we define our success with money. But so basically, my definition of success was very different. It's being, basically, how I define my success is being true to my goal, that I did not give up on my goal, that I was determined to practice natural building come what may, is my success. The joy of learning different things from different people. So I'll meet a lot of people and learn from them, all handwork, all hand tools or anything. That is what I count as my success. If I am able to give a livelihood or provide a sustenance to someone who is working on my site, even if he earns more money than me, that is my success, because someone else's family is sustaining on something that you are doing. I enjoy sharing the knowledge, sharing of my knowledge and skills, and so that it reaches more people and more people can practice this and change the world one step at a time, right? So if everyone is doing this natural building, imagine how different everything would be. Then again, empowering and informing people, common people like you and I, who are not like few of us who are not architects, who don't know anything about what this is, but informing them to how to start or what it is really about. And the most important thing was the understanding of gift economy. So I will talk about it perhaps a little towards the end. So gift economy is a kind of economy which is not dependent on money, on a currency. It is dependent on just giving without any unconditional giving. So yeah, that is something that was was a is what I define as my success, because so many things were inferred out of it. So like you said, like I mentioned, sustenance of livelihood. So this is what we were actually are on the brink of losing. There are beautiful live work, traditional craftsmanship in wood, mural work, relief arches work, and so many amazing things. If you go to a museum or if you go to an old buildings, and even in your villages, you will see that they are on the brink of being lost. And this is where I came in the picture. Would be my role to bring it back. That's what I learned in Thanal, and today I am doing this. So I'm training masons who have never touched natural material in their life. They are working with me and creating finishes, and all this in urban context also. So not just in a natural building, not just in a rural place, but small things. I'm starting small. So these are a part of my journey. I also teach children and adults through workshops where how to make something with mud in your own house. So this is our office space, and we have completed one wall in mud plaster. So I do host a lot of workshops through this. There are a lot of young kids who enjoy this like to the core. They just love it, and you just have to the parents have to pull them out of that room to take them home. So they enjoy, because as children we connect with it. Our instincts are like that. We connect with it immediately, and we lose this over a period of time. So it was that magical for me to understand this. And this is slowly, gradually, then I started setting up a studio, which is called Dharti Hands, which you guys was briefly introduced about. So it's a natural building studio. It is in the city, but we also work with all kinds of people who come from whatever background, humble backgrounds that they do. And we follow a certain core values where we are working with earth. Yeah, so these are a few process photos of some of our works. So you see, even if you look at it, you feel like your soul is happy, you're connected with it. So this is also bringing in illustration in it. So here is one time lapse thing of how it was constructed. And this is a project that we are currently working. So a big part of our work, my work was, and a concern for my parents were who would want to build naturally. You are doing it, but are there people really looking to construct naturally? What about maintenance? What about cost and all of these? But believe me, it is amazing how many responses we get every day. People are looking and dying to construct naturally because they have realized the value of sustainable living, the value of living with nature and with your environment. And we are really happy to connect with people because their lifestyles have also been very different. Now they have a lot of things that are changing, so there's a lot of awareness happening in the current times. A lot of you may have experienced that yourself also. um, this is another one sec. Okay, it's
Anushri,
not working. Yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Do we have a lot more ahead of us? I'm afraid we overshot the time,
No,
so
it's done. It's done. It's just okay. So sorry. So
that's
I
okay.
think,
That
yeah, this is what I'm doing in the urban context, or as well as the rural context. These are all natural materials. All even the interiors and all. In a city, we are doing an interior walls with natural materials. This is lime. Kitchen done in lime. Very fortunate to have my professor who architect Malak Singhal, whom I spoke about, who was my teacher. He offered me his office to do his office in a lime plaster. So that was like a big wonderful opportunity that I got. So a few more things that you will see. A lot of our documentation and research. So a lot to do with studying what already exists and then applying the same thing in our practice, and also through workshops. So we do teach workshops to students in architecture students, or even if they're just kids or anyone actually can build. So just to re-establish the idea that anyone can build. This is a small washroom space that we had constructed through a workshop. So in 4 days we constructed the whole washroom, which with natural materials. So, and now we come to the natural paint part, which is the most something that I connect with. So I do host a lot of workshops there. There's a very different journey in natural paints as well, because you must have gone into a room where know you sit and eyes start watering because of the paints that are used. You start coughing and all. So I wanted to give people uh, something that doesn't cause that, and that's how I started exploring natural paints also. So these are some workshops that I do for artist paints. These are all natural ingredients. So some is from beetroot, some from red cabbage, spinach, neem, local flowers, and it's again understanding their local geography and flora fauna. So this is what Dharti Hands is about. It's just a amalgamation of all these things that I've learned throughout, and yeah. So here it brings me back to my goal, and I am on my way there. But it's reassuring that the whole journey is towards that, and whatever you guys will also be practicing, be mindful of what you are doing and what you choose to do. It is going to matter, really matter, for the earth and for your people, for the people who live beside you, with you.